Hi, everyone. Today we have Eric on with us. Eric, take a second to say hello to the audience.
Hi, everybody. Just good to be here. Thanks very much, Tony, for having me on.
Absolutely. We're super pumped to have you. With that said, let's kick it off with a one-word open. So if you could use one word right now, Eric, to tell the audience how you're feeling in this moment, what would that be?
Excited.
Excited. Perfect. Now, let's take the next 3 to 5 minutes. If you could share with us a little bit about you, your background, and a little bit about your business, what it's all about, who you help, and how you help them, that would be great.
Great. Okay. 25 years ago, I was an industrial process engineer. I'm a professional engineer. I worked in oil and gas companies. I worked for pulp mills, and I started to realize that there was a problem with communications. Initially, we couldn't get the equipment to talk to each other. And then around the turn of the century, realized that other people were connecting to those, and we started to see people getting hacked. And I started really be concerned in the early 2000s about how hackers might start to impact things beyond just your laptop. And we started to see these impacts, of course, a few years ago, starting with Stuxnet, where attackers were actually hacking industrial control systems and causing serious harm and damage. And so I've had a number of startups in this area. And this latest startup was one that I hadn't planned to go back into. I was just going to be an advisor, but with things like solar winds and supply chain attacks, it was just too important to me. I realized that there was this gap in the way we protect our critical infrastructures that was just wide open, and I wanted to put a team together to see if we could deal with it, and that's what we've been doing for the last 5 years.
Awesome. Thanks for giving us that high-level overview. Now let's shift over to some wins. Can you share with us a recent win that you encountered in business? And then when you went through that win and you came out on the other side, what was your takeaway from that win?
Well, I mean, my first win was successfully selling a startup company. That was a few years ago. That was a company called Tofino Security, which is the dominant supplier of industrial specialty firewalls for the industrial control systems world. I'm no longer associated with that. That was a very successful exit, and that product still lives well out there. More recent wins, I would have to say, is landing. We started to look at the problem called software composition and software bill of materials 4 years ago. And so the win was when all of a sudden people started talking about software bill of materials. When the US government starts putting out regulations demanding that companies have software bill of materials, it was like, wow, are we ever in the right place at the right time? We've been working on this for 4 years, and then suddenly it starts to become regulations. So those are some really big wins. And then probably the most recent win was when 2 of my data scientists showed up with incredible data around Log4j, which is the vulnerability of the month right now. And they were able to show me some incredible information about how that was distributed through mission critical products. That was pretty exciting. So I'd say that the wins these days are seeing results out of what my researchers are doing and seeing like really cool insights into what's happening in software supply chain security.
That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that with us as well. So let's shift over to the other side. So we talked about some recent wins. Let's talk about maybe one failure that was a big deal to you, and you went through it, you got through it, and then tell us what was your takeaway after you got through that failure, so to speak.
I think one of the sadnesses that I have, one of the failures, is actually with my other win, which was the Tofino Security Firewall product. I probably sold that too soon. I wish I'd hung on. I mean, I look at the valuations that people get now and the importance. When we sold that company, people really weren't that interested in OT or industrial security or stuff like that. So I think that's a bit of a sadness for me. I think that would be probably my biggest disappointment. My biggest disappointment is that technology is still being used. But it could have been done, so much more could have been done with it, in my opinion. So to send your baby on its way, and I mean, it's no longer my product, but I wish that more had been done with it.
Gotcha. Thanks for sharing that as well. Let's talk about expenses. So what would you say is your top 2 expenses currently in your business today?
Oh, that's easy. That's super easy. It is my software development research team payroll. It's all the money goes, that's the biggest one. And then my second biggest expense is all the cloud services that we use to support all the AI that the guys are doing. I mean, I hate to say this, but we're making Jeff Bezos a lot of money.
That's really cool. What about customer acquisition? So tell us, like, what's your best source of acquiring new clients that's working for you right now?
So we're a new company, relatively new. We and in a brand new market. I mean, we were a company trying to sell into a market that didn't exist for a while. So the best way that we have found so far for customer acquisition, and this fits, is probably me and my researchers, going to conferences, going to events, publishing articles, and just sort of building out that market and building out awareness. I think all of our acquisitions so far have been driven through some sort of educational process. No question, I don't think this is scalable in the long term, but right now for a startup of 25 people, it's use, and and I'm really encouraging, it's not just me, it's our data scientists. Get out there and talk about what we're doing. Go to a conference, write a paper, get quoted in the media. And I think that's where we're really getting our leads. Well, I know that's where we're getting our leads. That's what my sales guys tell me.
That's really awesome. Your competitors are probably not doing that. And also what you were saying, I couldn't help not to reflect too deep, but I was reflecting back on what you were saying. I think it's really building relationships, right? So you meet those people, you have a conversation, they learn about what you do, you learn about what they do. And it's naturally you have a relationship now, you can follow up, and if they're going to do business with somebody, might as well it be you, right? So because they've already met you. Very cool.
It is definitely, I'll just add, it's definitely not hurt to have multiple startups. For example, one of our clients is Honeywell. How does a little 25-person company get a client the size of Honeywell? Well, it's because they've bought my products in the past. So it's, wow, you can definitely shortcut a lot of the due diligence. They know that my products tend to work. Totally different product now, but so there's definitely, it's about that relationship. They go, yeah, we can trust Eric. We can trust the product that his teams will build. So that has been huge. That's really helped us along. So if you look at our client list, it's all Fortune 500s, and it's because That's
really awesome. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that with us as well. Let's talk about thought leadership. Everyone talks about it. Everyone has their point of view. I would love to hear your point of view on thought leadership and what it looks like. Maybe the top 2 things that direct contributor to someone being an awesome thought leader. What would those 2 things be for you?
I mean, it's a tricky job. Thought leadership takes a lot of time. Make no mistake, it's almost a full-time job on its own. And it's also being involved, like it's been critical for me to be involved in committees. So for example, software, bill of materials, and supply chain is our area of focus. Well, the US government has a number of committees on that. So I have to be a member of those. I have to listen to the other thought leaders. As a thought leader, my job isn't just to invent really cool things, but really for my customers, it's to be able to synthesize what all the thought leaders are saying, and what they're thinking, and then make sense out of that. Really the job of a thought leader is to take in the market, and I think in any market, is to take all the really cool ideas there and distill them down into a way that a manager or an executive can understand and make sense of and make a decision quickly. Again, they don't need to understand how AI in the supply chain works, but as my role as thought leadership is to say, hey, this technique is really working, you should look at it, and be able to really help people who have got no time, no spare time, to be able to focus and make decisions. That's the job of the thought leader.
That's awesome. And the last question, as we're coming to a close, what is your take on company culture? So what does that look like? So if someone's got, you mentioned some big clients that you have that work with you. So obviously you're doing a lot of things right. So from the outside, your culture looks amazing. But I would love to hear from you. What are the top two things that helped, like, the 80-20 rule, right? There's some 20% of something, and that's your 80% of results. So I wonder, from your perspective, what is that top two things that helped you, have an awesome culture in your company?
I, I really believe that my goal is to sort of coach and help the staff grow. Their job, what I want out of them and what I'm most excited about when I look back are staff members who I see. I'll give you an example. I brought in a young staff member in my previous company who was, I think he was 16 years old. He was really drifting. He's now got a master's, looking at his PhD. That's, to me, what's exciting is, like, how can we build a real team and build up these people? And that's probably the most important thing. If you wanted to describe our company culture, it's around the team, how we work together, how the team grows. And I think if you asked anybody on the team, they'd say that this is a place where you come, and I'd say, and have fun. I mean, it's hard in a pandemic to have fun, but darn it, we're going to make an effort. We're going to have fun. We're going to do cool things. And everybody on the team, I'm going to encourage them to grow. So if it's a researcher, I want them to be able to get experience in public speaking. I want them to get experience in looking into new techniques. We'll do fun things, like, for example, over Christmas. Normally they're really driven. You've got to get this project done and this project. So what we'll do over the Christmas break, if anybody's in, or in fact, in the weeks around it, so like a 3-week block, we'll have the do-it-yourself sprint, or do whatever you want sprint. And they literally got 3 weeks to work on whatever project. It had to be a reasonable project, but whatever project they thought would be cool. And then they just had to report back after the break on what cool project. So it could be, I've always wanted to spend some time looking into this problem, but we've never had a chance. Or I think there's some cool research I could do here, or I just like to get my emails caught up. I don't care. I just let every team member have a couple of weeks just to work on their own stuff and whatever they think's important. So that's what's important to me in the company culture, is like really building that team, particularly in the space I'm in, which is high tech, where, Google could be knocking on their door tomorrow and offering them buckets of money to go work in a cubicle somewhere. I want them to feel that life is not about working in a cubicle, it's working on a team.
That is really neat. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thanks.
Here we are at the end. If you could take this opportunity to give out your social handles, your website address, that way if the listeners want to find out more information, they'll know how to find you online.
Sure. So our website is www.aDolus.com. That's aDolus. My email address is eric.byres@aDolus.com. And you can also find me on Twitter at, I think it's ICS Secure is my Twitter handle. If you're wondering, ICS is Industrial Control Systems. And so that's my Twitter handle. And LinkedIn, it'll be just my name, Eric Byres, is the search. I was a very early LinkedIn customer and a very early Google customer, so I just use my name, ERIC.BYRES. And you can just Google me, you'll find me.
Very cool, Eric. Let's sign off with a one-word close. Tell us what that one-word close is for you right now, and tell us why you're choosing to sign off with it. My one-word close is believe. I believe that we can actually make a difference out there, that we can do something useful. For me, it's making the world safer and more secure. I'm just running a little 25-person team, but I believe we can have like a way outsized impact on the world. And we can, I want to make this world a better place for my grandkids and their kids. And I think we can do it. I think that's what it's, and it's the belief in that you can make a difference
when you throw in the towel, you're not going to do any good. But if you believe, and I think our whole team believes, they are going to make a difference.
Awesome, Eric. Thank you very much for the meaningful conversation.
Thanks very much. It's a real pleasure.